Hey y'all, well that looks haunted. I'm back and I have more creepy stories for you guys. These are scary, creepy, weird Uber experiences. So this says, what's your craziest Uber driver stories? So I'm going to assume most of these will be from the perspective of the driver. I had a dude pass out cold on one of my first rides, 6,000 rides ago. Nothing I did would wake him up. So I decided to drag him onto his front porch. Once we got to his porch, his keys fell out of his jacket pocket, so I did something really stupid. I unlocked his door, dragged him to the nearest carpet I could find, took a cushion off of his couch, put it under his head, laid him on his side, and walked backwards out of the house, locking the front door on my way out. The next morning I called Uber and the woman said, "Never, ever do that again." She told me to call 911 next time. I don't know, I feel like you had good intentions with it, but I also understand that you could get yourself in trouble doing something like that. I remember I had an Uber one time and I asked her, what happens if somebody passes out in your car? Because I was genuinely so curious. And she was like, you have to call 911 because I guess, I don't know if this happened to her or if it happened to somebody else that she knew who was also an Uber driver, but she said that her friend tried to wake someone up and put his hand on them, or I don't even know if it was a boy or girl, put their hand on whoever their passenger was to try and wake them up, and then tried to get them out of their fucking car, and they threatened to charge them with assault. I don't know. They hadn't done anything bad, they were just trying to help, but I was like, yeah, that's scary because you never know. But I would also be so freaked out. But also I'm like, because I'd be freaked out if I just woke up inside my apartment on the floor with a cushion and the last thing I remember is being in my Uber. But if you're that drunk or fucked up to where you're passing out cold, would you even remember? Would you just be like, oh, I let myself in? I don't know. First week, a guy asked if I wanted to turn off the app and come up to his apartment for a cup of coffee. Hard note, my guy. Hard note. Another guy thought this 4-minute trip was a speed dating event. Lots of generic, which do you like type questions. One offered to share his medical marijuana with me if we could hang out privately sometime. I'm 30 and he looked like Philip Seymour. I don't know what this means. I'm 30 and he looked like Philip Seymour Hoffman's uncle. Who the fuck is that? As a passenger, I had a guy pull up, his car matched the profile, but instead of the white chick in the profile pic, it was a black man. He insisted that it was fine, he was just driving under his wife's profile and got mad when I wouldn't get in the car with him. I'm pretty sure he was the one I've had multiple customers complain about trying to drive them outside city limits at night. I reported him immediately. I feel like, can we do anything? As women, honestly, you can't even have a job just driving people around without getting harassed. It's quite literally your job. And you can't get away from them. And it's scary because you're alone with these people. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen to men, shut the fuck up. I'm sure men get harassed too, but it's also I hate that that's kind of becoming more normal, whether it be Uber or DoorDash, where the profile will say that it's a woman and then a man shows up. It's I swear to God. And I've seen people have the reasoning as to why they do that. They use, they said their wife's profile or whatever, because I don't think you can work for the apps if you have any sort of felony or something. But I'm sorry, that's scary and I don't care. I don't want a man banging on my fucking door, yelling at me to come get my food when I'm expecting Cynthia, shut the fuck up. Sorry, I'm going off. Anyways, picked a guy up and went 45 minutes from my house. I was gonna end before I got the notification for his trip. Figured whatever, I'll set the trips to take me back home. Had a ride in the queue when we were about 15 minutes away from my current rider's drop-off. The guy in the queue kept calling, so I said, let me answer this. Well, my phone is connected to Bluetooth in my car. The guy in the queue said he's not a rider and just liked women. I panicked and hung up on him. The rider in the car said, what did he say? So I told him and he goes, that's what I thought. He then said, sweetie, don't pick the next guy up. That sounds like bad news. You seem like an awesome person and I don't want to find out something happened to you in the news. He even offered to be a witness when I reported it to Uber. Needless to say, my night driving stopped after that. No, and thank God you did not pick them up. That's so scary. Yeah, this one just says a guy arguing with his bowel movement. He's just yelling at his stomach or what? Picked up 2 girls about 1 a.m. on a Monday morning. They looked young, so I asked the account holder for ID and she showed me ID saying she was 24. On the ride, I noticed 3 cars following me. They were late 80s SUVs, a Tahoe, a Bronco, and I forget the third one. Basically redneck serial killer cars. Asked the girls if they recognized the cars. They were very distinctive. And got, no, I don't know who might be following us. Did 2 U-turns and they kept following us, so I called 911 and headed back to a gas station we had passed by. By some miracle, there was a cop in the parking lot, so I pulled up right next to him. The cars following took off. I got out and explained what was going on to the cop when the account holder got out and told me it was her uncle and cousins. Apparently her mom was mad at her and sent them to follow her. When I asked her why she hadn't told me that, when I had asked about them, she admitted she was only 16 and using her aunt's ID and Uber account. My city has a curfew for minors, plus I sure as hell wasn't going to drive them to the house where these guys were currently waiting. So I left them with the cop. In 8 years of driving, that is literally the only time I was worried for my safety. Dumb-ass teenagers, I swear to God. But it's also like insane. Like if your uncle and cousins are following you, why don't they just drive you? Where were you? I'm so confused. Why didn't they just pick you up? I picked up a dude that had escaped from North Korea. Said he was in the special forces of their military and was able to map out a route into southern China. From there, an American church brought him to the US as a refugee. I don't know if I believe it, but also, I do. That's crazy. Took a girl to her apartment from her job at Walmart. It was a stop trip, and as we pull in, she says, "I fucking knew that bitch was cheating." I stayed and watched them go back and forth, lol. Started to get intense, but not bad enough to call the cops, but I was invested at that point. So she got home and her boyfriend was cheating on her, and you watched them fight? Were they like fighting outside, or you're like peeking through the fucking window? It's really sad though. I'm glad she caught him. Hope she got out of it. Picked up a lady in her 20s the Saturday morning after a Fish concert, wearing a t-shirt and underwear, carrying her pants in a bag. 5 minutes down the road, she unbuckles, so I turn around to see her putting on her bikini in the backseat of my car. Not what I expected. Got a proposition from a couple to wash my feet and suck them dry, but I had to take my pants off while they did it. Oh my God. And caught a couple playing with each other in my backseat on the way to their hotel at 4 a.m. The second one, that's disgusting. The first one, I don't know. I was gonna try to defend her, but I don't think I can. Her getting into the car with her pants in hand already, she doesn't give a fuck. But also, like, don't do that? Like, I don't know. I pull up to a bar to pick up this drunk dude, and as he opens the door, his drunk friend comes up and says, "Don't be a punk. I treat you like fucking family. Don't you ever disrespect me that way." The rider replies, "How am I disrespecting you?" His friend then says, "Get in the car, bro, get in the car." Rider then keeps saying, "How am I disrespecting you?" Friend says, "Don't touch me, I'm gonna hit you, get in the car." Then they start pulling each other to the ground and going at it on the floor while other people from the bar are breaking up the fight. I canceled the ride and picked another rider up and passed by the same spot minutes later, seeing the drunk passenger sitting on the bench with a bloody nose. I have no words for that. This one is really sad. I'm scared. I picked up this girl who had a pet dog. Her boyfriend put the dog in the back before arguing with her. Then he took the dog back from the back of the car and the girl started crying while her boyfriend was raising his voice yelling at her. The girl then tells me to go carry on with the ride and she starts crying. I really wanted to get help, but I didn't want to get involved and into this mess. Minutes later, her boyfriend was following me on the highway, cutting off other drivers, swerving like crazy. She's on the phone with him and tells me to just drop her off at the nearest exit, and her boyfriend's going to take her back, and she kept begging me not to call the police. I really felt so bad for her. She didn't seem right in the head, maybe from abuse. She kept apologizing and sounded so afraid and showed so many signs of being abused. I really hate myself for not doing something about it, but I didn't want to further aggravate the situation. I hope she's all right and in a better place. It's so hard because being in that situation, you want to help so badly. Like you said, you don't want to make it worse. Like, you don't know what the fuck he's capable of. If he is willing to act like that in front of a stranger, can you imagine what it's like in private? So I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like I would have called the police or something. I don't know. I'm just confused about the dog part. So he put the dog in the backseat and then took the dog away from her and like just sent her on her way. I'm guessing that's what happened. Not the craziest, but my favorite lately. I'm delivering Uber Eats pizza to someone during a busy rush hour and just had a lot of stress with some jerk drivers a few minutes before dropping off this pizza. The instructions were leave at the door, but when I pull up to the house, there is a full-grown man out in the yard to greet me in pajamas with blue hair, jumping up and down exuberantly with the biggest grin on his face. "Oh my God, you're here. I'm so hungry. You're killing it. Thank you." He was so joyous and unexpected that I just couldn't help feeling so happy. I still laugh when I think about him. Wait, I like love that. That's so funny. He's like, yippee. Picked up a truck driver, taking him home, which was way out of town and far from the freeway. He said gross things like panties in a twist and asked me a lot of odd questions. What really did it for me was when he asked if I had a weapon to protect myself with, like a gun. I kicked him out and canceled the ride. I left him at a gas station on an exit near a state prison, where he belongs. Had a couple arguing, boyfriend staying in the car with me while his girl went inside to pick something up. He got impatient waiting for her to come out and asked me to just leave her. I didn't and said that would make me feel uncomfortable. Good for you, because what the hell? I hope that you told her that he said that. I mean, I'm sure he's been worse to her. Picked up 2 guys. One was super drunk, the other was pretty sober. He was stuck helping the drunk guy back home. He said usually another person ends up doing this, so it was his first time. He promised me he wouldn't throw up in my car. We were at his apartment complex, didn't know which building or door was his, tried waking him up, and the guy was so mad and was shaking him. The guy started coughing and spewed on his shirt. So the guy opened the door and pushed the drunk guy out, sort of landing on his face. We were there for a while trying to wake him up, and then he started throwing up and woke up afterwards, got up, and started walking. Yeah. I was dropping off a guy, get to their destination. He wanted to ask me a question. I said, okay, and he asked if he could kiss me. I said no. He kept asking and wouldn't leave my car. So I started to drive away with him in my car. Then he finally hopped out. What the audacity of men. I like actually can't. These are like pissing me off. During the pandemic, I got a pickup in a really nice part of town. Get there and cops have the street blocked. One comes over and asks why I'm parked behind his car. I show him my pickup on the app and he says, hang out here a minute. A couple minutes later, he comes over with 2 young men. He tells me to go straight to the address with no stops. Turns out it's a couple of teenagers who went to a girl's house and got caught in her closet after dad came home early. We get to their address and both their dads are waiting for them on the sidewalk. I turned off my app and finished the ride so I could watch. The second person who stayed to watch the drama, that's hilarious because I would do the same. I had a girlfriend who used to Uber at night in a bigger city, made decent tips, etc., picking up people going home from the bars, whatever. She told me she had started engaging her alfresco nudity kink more and more while doing it. What does that mean? Basically had passengers in the back and got more and more confident, inching how much risk she took. First unbuttoning her shirt to expose her bra, eventually driving without pants, eventually without bottoms at all. She pushed it to the point where she was able to drive with only a long unbuttoned shirt on. Too dark and most passengers were too drunk and clueless to even know what was going on. Regardless, pretty wild experiences for her. She never got caught from what she told me. That's weird as hell. I'm not one to kink shame, but do not push your kink onto strangers. It's like unsuspecting people, and you're just like naked in the front seat. That's weird as hell. You should also be in jail. My girlfriend and I were trying to take an Uber to her friend's house, and the bridge was closed, so we turned around to go back home. My girlfriend canceled the ride so she didn't have to pay as much, and it still charged her almost the full amount. The Uber guy kept talking about how he's not going to get paid now, and he tried to kick us out in the middle of the highway. Well, I don't know why you would cancel the ride in the middle of the ride. And it's not his fault that the bridge was closed. So you should have to pay more because he has to drive you further. Okay, anyways. Tries to kick us out in the middle of the highway in a hurricane, and we refused because we were like, what the fuck? We already paid you. No, you didn't. And you're just gonna do us like that. He takes out a fucking sword and starts swinging at us. I blocked a blow that would have hit my girlfriend. It just grazed me and we got the fuck out of there. We were standing in the middle of the highway during a hurricane and found our way back home from some strangers. Okay, so I'm like so torn on how I feel about this one. Because you shouldn't have canceled the ride. You canceled the ride, so yeah, technically you need to get out of the car. You changed the destination, now you have to pay more, that's just how it works. Do I agree he should have pulled out a fucking sword? Maybe not, that seems a little dramatic. A whole sword. To be kicked out in the middle of a hurricane is wild. I don't know how I feel about this one. I picked up a drunk guy from a bar where 3 cop cars were at. Turns out he got into a fight with another guy and he kept repeating himself that if the cops weren't there, he would have killed him. Then he goes on to say it again, but he says if the cops weren't there, he would have shot him like those other 3 people. Admitting he's killed 3 people. Yeah, you're not getting in my car, brother. And somebody replied and said, yeah, I've definitely picked up a few murderers that have confessed to crimes. Like, what the hell? People are getting a little too comfortable with their Uber drivers. And I thought I was like oversharing. Had a very rich passenger and she made it a case to tell me she is very successful and doing well for herself. She told me the ins and outs of her life and career. She climbed into the front seat and started flirting with me heavy. She made it obvious she wanted to hook up. She was an attractive white blonde woman. Any man would have taken the chance, right? Except I didn't. I was a sad boy over my ex at the time and fumbled hard. I got fucked, I got a huge payout. Okay. She's weird, and so are you. I'm glad that you were sad over your ex and didn't do it, but I don't like your mindset. Also, can you imagine you're just like driving like for Uber and somebody literally climbs over into the front seat from the back seat? That would be, put your seatbelt on. Transported a wanted suspect from a bar brawl. Cops surrounded my car, but the suspect didn't want to comply, which resulted in an hour-long standoff. I'd be like, I don't get paid enough for this. Okay, and to end it off, this one is clearly not real, but it's funny. I got kidnapped by this cult. To escape their compound, I had to take all 21 of them out, one at a time, with a semi-sharpened spoon and some dried out string cheese. Nice. All right, well, that's all I have for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any weird, scary, strange, I don't know, Uber stories that you want to share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit link down below. Whether you were the driver or the passenger, I don't give a fuck. I find them both entertaining. But other than that, I'm gonna go. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.